Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting for Bedford Township for August 20th, 2019. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, if Pastor Greg Withrow from Assembly of Christians could open us up in prayer.
Please bow your head. I'm going to read from one of my favorite passages in Scripture from Philippians 4. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, and whatsoever things are of good report, if there is any virtue and if there is any praise, think on these things. Those things which you have both learned and received and heard and seen in me do, and the God of peace shall be with you. Heavenly Father, we thank you for these words. Your word swims so upstream from what we naturally desire to do in our hearts. But when we follow your word, Lord God, there is wisdom, and we are deeply enriched. As I come here each time, I pray for wisdom for this board, for those that you, word says, is you've chosen to lead this community, the community that I live in and all of us do. Give them wisdom to make wise decisions, right decisions, and good decisions for all of us, Lord. We pray this in the name of the Lord Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that word. Okay, next item up on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda is submitted. Support.
Motion and supported by, was that Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry?
Aye.
Mr. Francis? Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Next item is the consent agenda. The agenda committee recommends to approve and place on file the minutes of the August 6, 2019 regular meeting of the Bedford Township Board. B, accept and place on file the general, savings, pooled funds, and CD reports from the treasurer. C, approve and place on file the revenue expense balance and report sheet for the period ending July 31st, 2019.
Mr. Chairman, on item 3B, there's a couple of typos I'd like to have corrected. It's just the month. The report says June, and it all should be July on the title, and on 1, 2, 3, or 4 other places on that. Everything that says June should be July, just a typo.
Okay.
Numbers are correct.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a support?
Second.
Okay, supported by Mr. Steiner. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Mr. Francis.
Okay.
Mr. Steiner seconded.
Mr. Francis?
I don't think I did make the motion.
Who made the motion?
Well, you brought it up, like, with the changes, so I think they assumed you made the motion.
Oh, okay, that's no problem. Okay, aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 4, A, a proclamation honoring and recognizing the Family Medical Center of Michigan. Come on up.
If you want to stand right here. That way you're on camera. This proclamation is for the Family Medical Center of Michigan. Whereas the Family Medical Center of Michigan was founded in 1979 in Temperance, beginning in a renovated school building with a $57,000 grant from the federal government, and whereas the Family Medical Center of Michigan is a nonprofit community health center who has provided essential medical and dental services to individuals and families throughout Monroe and Lenawee counties, and Whereas the center has grown from serving 620 patients when they first opened their doors and has since grown to serving nearly 21,000 patients and generating over 62,000 medical and dental encounters annually in Temperance, Adrian, Carlton, and Monroe. And whereas the Family Medical Center of Michigan works to provide quality health care to all its patients regardless of their ability to pay, and it's accredited by the Joint Commission on Accreditation of Healthcare Organizations, and now let it be resolved that the Bedford Township Board hereby honors and recognizes the exemplary work and devotion to the community of Bedford, and be it further resolved, the Bedford Township Board, on behalf of its residents, wish to thank the Family Medical Center of Michigan for its 40 years committed to serving our community. In witness thereof, the undersigned members of the Bedford Township Board have executed this proclamation on the 20th day of August, 2019 in Temperance. Here, if you'd like this, so I can hear you.
Just thank you to everybody. We did have some pretty humble beginnings, and Pam is one of the original board members and is still on the board. I'm kind of a newbie. I've only been on the board 26 years. So we've come a very long way. We now have 5 facilities, and we're serving over 80,000 encounters a year. And when you touch that many lives, it makes you really, really humble. So we hope to continue the way we've begun, and we really thank you for the tribute.
Well, thank you guys for your service. Okay, item 4B, Rudolph Libbe Group, FM 360 Total Facility Management. We met with them about a month and a half ago. Talked about some of our needs. This board has been talking about putting money aside for future, for building management, and basically taking care of any needs and planning for them. We found that FM 360 would cover all of Bedford Township's needs as far as saving and some of the needs that we've had in the past is we'll get calls at 1 in the morning sometimes with a pipe broken or something, and they would get the call and they would have people that would fix it instead of, you know, me getting the call and trying to run over here trying to figure out how to shut a water off. But anyway, so they're total facility management, and they're going to give their report here, so we appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody for inviting the Rudolph Libbe Group up to your meeting tonight. We feel strongly that the FM 360 solution that we offer is a good solution for a lot of different people that we serve now, and it would be a nice solution for you. FM 360, what it is, you know, we take Rudolph Libbe Inc. and GEM and even our properties company and GEM Energy and kind of combine them all into one product that we can offer you that you know, has been proven over the years to save a lot of money for folks and take away the maintenance, some of the maintenance work, some of the emergency work that Paul addressed, and let you focus on the township business. So with that, I will introduce my colleague Amy, and she'll take us through a little presentation to give you a better idea of what this FM 360 solution is. Thank you.
I'm Amy Swiderski. I'm with GEM's Facility Management Group, and as Brian said, thank you for inviting us here this evening. So I'll be kind of quick in the slides too. Some of the major benefits that our customers experience, one of the huge ones is that everything is customized for our customers, for their facilities, based on their individual needs. So with that being said, there's comprehensive facility maintenance programs or supplemental maintenance programs. We really focus on right-sizing the scope of work and right-sizing staff to take care of your needs in an efficient way that's cost-effective. So with the comprehensive facility maintenance program, there will be a dedicated property manager that will serve as your single point of contact. It's kind of the pivot person to take care of all of your maintenance needs, your service needs. A lot of times that person is that point person that pulls in all of the other services our different groups in our company offer. So they're your go-to. They're your one call, one-stop shop. They take care of everything for you 24/7, 365. They'll field all of those questions, emergencies, etc. Building asset evaluation and capital budgeting, I'm going to talk about next. But what we do for a lot of our customers, especially ones that have multiple facilities like your township, are building asset evaluations, where we go in, we will evaluate your facility, your equipment, your HVAC equipment, electrical. We're looking at the interior, exterior of your facilities, checking out the roofing, parking lots, windows, etc. We will then generate a report for you with suggested, recommended maintenance items for immediate concern or for future concern, which then kind of gives us a roadmap to help you set up a capital budget. We have a lot of experience and expertise. We work with a lot of our customers on creating capital budgets for them. So with a capital budget, you are planning for the future. You're keeping things predictable. You are reducing the risk of surprise, emergency mishaps, or repairs that are really costly. So it keeps things predictable and gets you in a plan for service and maintenance. The cost of the building assessment evaluation, it really depends on the size and number of your facilities and some other variables, so an on-site visit would be necessary to give you a better idea of that. So like I mentioned, the capital budgeting is going to serve as kind of your roadmap for the future planning, and keep things predictable and cost efficient. So an ideal time to consider this is when buildings hit around 7 to 8 years. We're usually about 3 weeks out from request to turn around and generate the report for you. Different benefits of freestyling. So we will do all that legwork for you. We are going to be doing all of the, visiting with other contractors if something needs to be subcontracted, but generally we self-perform a lot of things. We extend the bulk rate pricing that we get through different companies that we're aligned with and vendors to our customers. So that as a benefit will extend to you. Again, the 24/7, 365 availability. And people that will be involved in this process will be decision makers, any of your personnel involved with budgets, and your facilities, any of your facility personnel. So I've already touched on these things, but these are the top 3 financial benefits that our customers realize when they are part of the FM 360 program. Again, minimize business disruption. We are there to take care of the facilities, and when I say business, not just in a commercial sense, but your day-to-day routines. I know with the township, there's several fire stations. If we are there to handle your maintenance and facilities or service, we are not there to disrupt or interrupt the day, the routine, any processes. We're focusing on the facilities so they can focus on their responsibilities. The bulk service rates that we extend to our customers with the facility management group, we have a lot of bulk pricing for lawn care, snow removal, also janitorial supplies, like your paper supplies, that a lot of our customers find a lot of savings through that. And then with your building asset evaluation and capital budgeting, you are going to be seeing reduced costs with emergency repairs, which is going to keep your day-to-day operating costs lower. I wanted to share 2 examples with you of customers, some success stories. There's many, but we'll limit it to 2. So the Highland Building in downtown Toledo, they use a lot of different services that our groups offer, from HVAC to FM, energy solutions, Rudolph Libbe properties. Am I missing any? Construction. So they pull in all the different services our groups offer. Since they joined with our FM 360 program, after 1 year, they realized a savings of 31%, a decrease in energy-related costs, and in turn, an 11% overall operating cost reduction. And another example that your township could relate to would be the Sun Federal Credit Unions, being that they have multiple locations. They have 11, 2 are in Pennsylvania. And in the picture, you see Mike, here's the property manager. So he's a facility management technician. He's that point person that pulls in all the other services that they utilize from our group. So HVAC, emergency response plan, construction services, and he's that person that manages all of that, coordinates it, schedules it, and makes sure everything is done to meet their needs. So this is just a recap of different, the suite of services that our group offers here on the last page. And I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, or, okay, that kind of covers it all, so, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any comments or questions for them? Like I said, this is just something Paul and Trudy and I met about, and, you know, we obviously, we talked about maintaining the buildings or this building. When we did meet with them, we did talk about all of our buildings, you know, is something we could, you know, eventually look at, but it was obviously, the main discussion was this building, you know, putting a plan in place for future needs and stuff like that, so. We did talk about, there's not many companies that do what they do. In fact, I couldn't find any other ones that do exactly what they do, so. Yeah, so I guess the board just needs to discuss it and figure out what we want to do moving forward, if we want to, you know. Ms. Tenenberry?
What other governmental agencies that do you do this for?
So we
I
work.
mean, the two you mentioned were private industry.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to comment on government? We do a lot of work with, we have several libraries that we work with. Plymouth District Library is one. Other examples?
Well, you got to
You
come
have
up to
to
the
come
mic
to
for
the
you to
mic.
talk.
Coming up, Greg.
Thank you once again. I would just say some of the other...
Excuse me, you are?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm Greg Steenrod,
Okay.
and with the Rudolph Libbe Group. Thank you. Some of the other governmental facilities would be the Huntington Center, which is a Lucas County facility, where we provide maintenance services for their heating and cooling systems. Fifth Third Field, where the Toledo Mud Hens play. So we provide facility maintenance and management services like Amy and Brian referenced. We have since the inception of that field. When the Port Authority was introducing energy solutions years ago, we provided asset evaluation for a number of their fire stations and their facilities. So that would be offhand a number of the facilities that we provide these types of services for.
Okay, but nothing governmental unit where you do lots of buildings. Could you give me an estimated cost, annual cost for any one of those?
I think as Amy referenced earlier, we really need to inspect the facilities and get an idea of the square footage and what the cost per square footage would be to help maintain and operate your facilities. So it'd be difficult just to give you a cost right now.
Not for us, I'm talking about an estimated cost that for Fifth Third Field, 10,000 a year, 50,000 a year, 500.
Again, I'd love to be able to answer your question, but
I don't know how much you spend for Fifth Third Field.
I'm sorry, offhand, I don't have that information.
Okay.
I apologize.
Okay,
Oh, 120,000 a year.
okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments or questions? I mean, I brought this forward so we, you know, I look to move forward at some point and do something at some point. Mr. Francis?
Help me understand this. You're willing to come out here and survey our various facilities and what? Prepare a report on what you see as the needs?
Mm-hmm.
Because
So-
we've talked for some time on a capital improvement plan that we need to put together, and your expertise would help us a lot in that, where we don't have that kind of expertise in how long a building's going to last or how long a roof has got to go or things like that we need to plan for.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not hit with an emergency, oh, your roof fell in last night.
Yeah, so we would visit your facilities, and we would also pull in other groups within our company with their expertise, with HVAC, other electrical systems, things like that. Whatever equipment you have, we'll analyze and assess the equipment, your structure of the building, interior and exterior, and give you a report on, yes, you need to replace this in so many years. And we'll also give you an idea of your return on investment for different things. So, yeah, we'll go through kind of with a fine-tooth comb and
And I
help
would
you.
assume we'd get a bill for that study and report, correct?
There will be a fee for the assessment. And again, that really, it depends on the size of your facility, how many there are, the types of equipment, or how much equipment we're evaluating, so.
I guess in my view, I guess, when you come out to first look at it, maybe give us a heads up on approximately what that report might cost. I know you aren't gonna know it till you go look at all the facilities and kind of project.
So
We'd
we'll
have
come
a
out and
ballpark.
look at it, and we'll submit a proposal to you. So the first
Perfect,
initial
perfect.
on-site inspection is just for us to formulate a proposal for you to present, so.
Good, appreciate that.
Ms. Tenderberry?
So, they mentioned, I don't have any more questions for them, just you, or you three, whatever, whoever came up with this idea. What they would do our maintenance, what about our maintenance department? Are we getting rid of the maintenance department?
We're not talking about them cutting grass and removing snow. That was just a couple, there's things, that's a couple of
They-
things
they-
that they
they
can
talked
do.
about
Like if our
removing.
maintenance guys got hurt and couldn't do it, and we needed employees, they could provide that.
They talked about removing snow.
But I'm saying they're not, we don't have to have, you can pick. It's like a big pie, and you get to pick what you want out of what they do.
Okay.
Just keep in mind, don't try to find the negative in it. We're trying to do something positive here, so let's try to move forward as a, as a group. It's a
Excuse
good
me,
thing. So
excuse
just keep
me,
that in
what you-
mind.
What you consider negative, I consider frugal.
I can tell what's going.
No, it's not.
So let's just try to
Yeah.
keep it positive here.
Excuse me, but I will speak as I want to
Oh, I know you
speak,
will, but I'm trying to keep it positive
And you
for
have
you.
nothing to say about what I say. So
Go ahead.
just
I'm sorry to
keep in
interrupt you.
mind
Go ahead.
It's positive to me
Okay.
because it's frugal. I did not know about this until we got our packets, so I did some research on MTA, Positive Organization. I found Bath Charter Township, Bloomfield Charter Township, 6 or 7 of them here. I didn't look at the rest, all of them. There were many that formulated their own capital improvement plan. My positive comment is that we haven't even formed a capital improvement plan. We're gonna hire someone to form our capital improvement plan. I'm not in favor of that. All of these townships formed their own capital improvement plan.
Did
The
they build the
MTA
Taj Mahal?
The MTA has several stories in their MTA magazine, which we get, funding capital improvements, tell you all about it. Delta Charter Township, I just copied their first page. Their planning commissioner and and a township board member put together their capital improvement plan. By the way, the Planning and Zoning Act, the law that we have to go by, stipulates that the Planning Commission is responsible to formulate the capital improvement plan. Nowhere in that law does it say you can outsource it to a company who's not even, I believe they're not a Michigan company, I believe they're an Ohio company, so they wouldn't even be familiar with Michigan law. Determining capital improvements, a big article in the MTA. Here's the MCL 125 I was referring to. To further the desirable future development of a local unit of government under the master plan, a planning commission, after adoption of a master plan, shall annually prepare a capital improvement program of public structures and improvements. So,
Well, you sit on planning, right?
yes, I
So
do.
you wait till the meeting after we bring this forward, and then you're gonna tell us all these great ideas of how you think it should be done. But you sit on your hands for weeks until we bring it to a meeting, and
This-
finally you have
this
all these
was-
great answers.
This was not.
So you come up with
put
this
out-
capital improvement plan then.
I
You
will.
sit on plan, you do
I'll be
it.
happy to.
Okay,
Mr.
I'll be happy
Chairman?
to. with
Mr.
Dennis
Francis, go ahead.
Jenkins.
and I'm sure it'll be right on, because you know construction so well. Mr. Francis, go ahead.
This is, Nancy, you might be a little unclear on what we're trying to do here. We're not asking them to write a capital improvement plan. We're seeking their advice on what things might cost, such as replacing a roof, such as doing this, such as doing that. They're the professionals at that. We certainly aren't. I agree with you. I've read the same thing, that the Planning Commission is really supposed to be doing that. This would assist them to come up with a cost. Because the capital improvement plan all boils down to, this is what we see the needs are, and this is what we think it's gonna cost in year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, out 10 years or so. And then you back that up. Well, how much do we have to fund each year to cover that? They're helping us with generating the costs.
Well,
And
they
maybe some insights on what things we ought to be thinking about. They're not writing a plan.
Well, that is, you need to have the plan before you have, they're doing an assessment on the building. So that's basically coming back with a plan, if you ask me. And excuse me, but this is the first time I have seen it. I don't know about the other trustees, but no one let me know that the 3 full-time officials were coming up with some offer from Rudolph Libbe to even engage in this. I mean, I guess I'm thinking now, after what you said, Paul, we need to have a plan first. We need to have the Planning Commission engaged in putting this together.
And you think the Planning Commission is capable of saying, well, we think this roof is gonna last another X years?
They're gonna have to ask a company to do it for them, Paul.
The other point I was going to make was that with one company, we eliminate the bid process and we eliminate our own local contractors from getting involved. To me, that's not something that this government should be doing. We should be engaging our own people. They need to make a living too, and they need to feed their families, and
My understanding
think
is
this is premature.
we're not locked into a contract with you, are
It's
you?
just an idea.
Nancy, real quick, I'm Mike Keene, I work for Rudolph Libbe, been with them for 24 years. I've lived in this township my entire life.
yes.
We were successful in being awarded the Bedford School Bond Project, and the same thing we presented to them is, we have employed over 350 Bedford Township residents, I believe in the last 10 years. In the last fiscal year, we've had 158 Bedford residents that works for the Rudolph Libbe companies. So our office might be in Toledo, but we employ an awful lot of Bedford Township people.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Can
However,
I-
I still think this is premature, and we can
But-
contract with them.
But we're not contracting, we're getting an estimate of what they do. It's an idea. It's just a thought. We're not voting on it tonight to say, hey, we're locked into a contract. We're moving forward to say, hey, let's at least let them look at our stuff and see what kind of plans they can offer us. That was it.
Right. Yeah, and just as clarification, tonight was just to show what the program is. We're not entering, like you say, into a contract. Nothing will be entered into till we do that walkthrough we talked about, if we're asked to do it. And we'll present a proposal to do a deep dive on the building asset evaluation. And further, I think Joel will attest to it, we don't do capital plans not only for government, but anybody we work with. We help them. We show them from our experience what we think things will cost, but then it's up to them. You know, they can either say, yeah, we agree, or we're gonna go on our own and do it. So it's not, you know, something that you would be locked into and say, Rudolph Libbe Group is gonna run this business. You know, we're here to assist on an as-needed basis.
And they take all their local contractors that you want to use, you put them on a list, and they call them. That way, at 2 in the morning, like a month and a half ago, I'm getting called from the police department saying you have a leak, spraying on the air conditioning unit in the police barn. And I got to come over here, call 5 different emergency places and get a bid for $1,900.
That's your job.
I get it, Nancy, but guess what? I figured out how to shut the water after an hour and a half, and we didn't get it done, and we did it for $500. I get it. You think that I should engineer all the roads? You think that I should maintenance all the buildings? I get your view of a supervisor, Nancy, but it's really,
Can I ask another question, please?
Sure.
What is GEM?
GEM is part of the Rudolph Libbe Group. They're our sister company that falls under that umbrella. They have a construction group that does electrical, mechanical, millwright work, and ironworker work. And they also have GEM Energy, which this is part of, and they handle a whole lot of services that we talked about in there. Everything from facility management to solar, to utility procurement, and they bundle those services together. So that's GEM, but we're all part of the Rudolph Libbe Group.
Mr. Steiner?
You made a comment about, and I'll add to it with one of our terms. We need to agree to disagree at certain times. But with that said, I mean, Ms. Tinbury does her homework. She looks into some intelligent questions, especially when it comes to cost. Give her that 100%. But what I see here is a presentation that was brought to us to tell us what your capabilities are. Granted, we have some people on our planning commission that do have some background that could do some of these, but I honestly don't think we have anybody in our planning group or engineering group that can do 100% of everything you're looking at. So to me, it's a combination of, let's see who can do what. What can you do best for us? What can our township engineer do better for us? What can each individual do better for us? It may be one group, it may be a combination of those groups, or literally merging those groups together to do that, to help our group create that capital plan. I mean, I've been involved now for almost 20 years in the township. And Planning Commission has talked about capital improvement plan numerous times over the years, and a lot of times it came down to the funding and to make that happen. It's not a simple task that we can throw together a capital plan overnight. There's a lot of homework and background and research and investigation behind it. So I'm going to say something like this to me is a positive look forward of things that need to be done. This doesn't tell me who I have to do it with. So if you have a presentation like this, I'm going to consider things like this that you can provide to us. I'm going to consider what our township engineer can provide to us or anybody else. And I do have to say, I do appreciate the fact that you are hiring Bedford residents. That's wonderful to hear. The Bedford people enjoy employment through Rudolph Libbe. So now I'll go get off my soapbox and I'll just go to a couple quick questions. They're very open, sort of broad. You've got a decrease of 31% in energy-related costs that you show on the one presentation. That's a great number. Those things can all be accomplished, yes, but on average, my question would be, okay, what is the actual return on investment so I can save 31%? What is my true cost up front? And then what is my return on investment, and how long is it going to take me to actually recover? So if I have to spend, $500,000 to save $100,000, I've obviously got a long return on investment. It's going to take some time. But if I've got and I know you can't answer that number tonight. You have to have things in front of you after looking at properties. Then you could say, you know what, here's our projections. We think we can give you this. You invest this, and here would be your projected rate of return.
Right.
Same thing with the 11% operating expense. Anything you can improve within, whether it's people, whether it's systems, whether it's buildings, whatever, going down the road long term, that's the type of things we need to do. Ms. Tinbury won't be here forever. I won't be here forever. None of us will be here forever. So I guess in hindsight, or not hindsight, in thinking forward is what I want to say, is who's going to be here in 5 years on this board? Who's going to be here in 10, 15, 20 years? If we do our job now, and we'll still be maybe living in this township, I don't think most of us will be alive. We're going to want people to be in this building that can operate efficiently and do the right things for the township, as we try to do as this board, to do the right things. So all sides do me a favor. Let's consider what we're looking at tonight. We're not voting on anything. We'll take it down a notch. But again, Ms. Tambry has good questions. She's always pointed on the money. And exactly, we need to point on the money and how we do it. Thank you.
But keep in mind, you can't plan on the money without moving forward a little bit with them. That was all this is something to
Mr.
bring to the
Barone,
board.
I did
And I'm not
say that.
arguing with you.
I don't want anybody to argue.
I'm
I
just telling
did
you
say
guys that as a supervisor, I was asked to put a capital outlay plan. We've never had one for anything around here, other than Pearl Albert Green saving for the water sewer department, which was underfunded, but we don't have fire department savings, township savings for buildings, nothing. So we're doing something finally in 2019 to save for these buildings. We've put money away. Now we need a plan. I tried to put together, I got a roof quote from a company, I got a quote on carpet. Come on, we need to be a lot more professional than that, and like you said, plan for the next board.
We've got a big toolbox. Let's see what we can
Yeah,
fill
and
it
it's,
with.
alls it is a discussion. That's it. I don't see anybody else coming up with a plan yet, other than Ms. Tenevaries, to let the planning members come up with it, which they're gonna do the same thing I would do. Mr. Francis?
Seems like we're getting the cart before the horse. All we're asking them to do at this point, and they're offering to do, is to give us the proposal. When we get the proposal, we can talk about the pluses and minuses on that, adjust it or do whatever, or just can it.
Correct.
And I think we
That's-
ought to have a proposal from you or anyone else that does a similar business. I don't, because it's up to us to plan, not to react.
Well, Paul, why don't you make a motion then to move forward?
Well, if we're done discussing,
Mr.
maybe some other
Montrag.
comments.
A couple questions is, first off, say we move forward with something like this and we decide that that's what we want to do. This is the type of thing that's going to need to go out for bid anyway, correct?
I don't know. How's it apples to apples? You gonna get somebody that manages an apartment complex to bid
Well,
on
you
it?
got to set specs. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but
That's why I'm asking.
that's what
It's
my
the kind
point
of thing
was,
that
is-
you would get the proposal and then you'd put together specs and then it would have to go out for bid. Is that correct?
Could, but you'd be taking a real gamble of who the heck you're gonna get bidding this thing.
Well, I agree. I would agree with
'Cause
that, but I'm saying, does it legally?
I guess if there are others that offer the identical types of services, I think we should
I would
at least
assume the
try to find
money
that out.
spent, it would hit a threshold that,
If you can find one, do it, and we'll
I'm-
put it out
I'm
for bid.
just
I'm just saying,
asking,
I
man.
couldn't find a company that does what they do.
well, I mean, even if, it would still need to get legally put out for bid, even if they're the only bid, correct?
With a sealed bid, with the type of expenditure, yes.
Yes, okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so the other question I had was, I guess specifically for you, Paul, if not all three of you guys, is there, just to get your guys' thinking a little bit, what are your thoughts in regards to the different services? Are you guys thinking it's the kind of thing that you're thinking that you would want the whole 360, or are you kind of,
I don't think we need the whole 360.
I agree. That's why I wanna
we're
get
gonna,
what you guys
as a
thinking.
group, look at what they offer and say, hey, I think we need to plan for this building. Okay, they tell us the years of what's left on each thing in it. You know, the fire departments, here's what you got for the fire departments, here's how much you need to plan for each thing. Put a budget plan for us together, and, you know what I mean? I don't, you know, as far as phone calls in the middle of the night for an emergency pipe break, you know, I mean, you would probably want to do that end too. That way you're getting professionals to come out here to do the work right away.
well,
Before-
you would want? I got you. Nancy.
And I aim all my 2 AM calls to you. I can
Yeah.
learn it.
Yeah, I get woke up every weekend from Habitat. Yes?
This was on presentations, doesn't say anything about taking a vote to move forward. I get the idea, and I could be wrong, and somebody speak up if I'm wrong. I get the idea that I'm the only one that has researched this and looked into it, at least on MTA. I looked at the MEDC. They offer help. There's an excellent article, Determining Capital Improvements for township people, boards. I mean, I can't imagine that these people have a monopoly on this when we've got Ann Arbor, Detroit, you know, counties and places nearby. you know.
I didn't say in the
they have-
world. I said in the general area.
If they have a monopoly, then I'd like to know, you have no competition doing this?
We have competition, but none of our competition that I know of do everything in one
Well,
complete package.
We've kind of decided that we don't need everything. I'm just,
And understood, I mean, we can, like I said, we're gonna, if the board so chooses, we would go out and do a building walkthrough and put together a proposal. And then at that time, you know, it'll be up to the board to make the decision.
I think historically, this board has not moved forward without understanding the price or the cost involved. And if you're going to make a motion tonight to move forward, I think that's poor fiscal responsibility.
Mr. Francis?
There is, just answering that question, there is no cost involved with the first step that we're offering to do. You know, from that point, we will bring you a proposal that has costs associated with it, but the first go-around, there is no cost involved.
Mr. Montre?
That was my question. It was just for an understanding of, so it's like, the first step is a free quote, more or less. And then, can you define, like, can you define the proposal? What is that, what do you mean, like, okay, we're gonna give you a proposal, especially regarding a capital improvement plan, or specifically regarding a capital improvement plan?
Right, so, I'm Joe Godowski. I'm the Director of the Facility Management Group for Gem Energy, and I'm also a Bedford resident for the past 15 years. So what we'll do is, we'll break it all down into, you know, what the different costs are for the different programs that we offer. So from HVAC maintenance, there'll be a cost associated with it to do the assessment of all your HVAC equipment. We are the largest HVAC company in Toledo, so, you know, we have highly skilled techs that'll come in, analyze all the equipment. Combination of their experience and what ASHRAE says on the lifespan of your equipment, it's how we put the programs together, which then will interpret into your capital improvement program. So again, it's really an a la carte type of program that we offer, and what Amy showed you is our whole, you know, FM 360 program that we offer and has been very successful. The statistics that we've shown, you know, the savings that we're able to get you guys. There's just so many options to it, but what we'll do initially is, like Brian said, is assess your buildings and then start putting pricing together. So if you choose to just have your HVAC equipment assessed, you know, you can do that part of it. And also see what the capital, you know, budget would be, you know, just for HVAC equipment. We can then break it down to roofs, parking lots, everything that we offer. The one big thing that, and I don't know if it was mentioned as well, but through the amount of properties that we manage and maintain, which is currently around 220, we establish buying power with various vendors as well. So some of the services that we don't offer in-house, we're not a roofing company, but, you know, I've aligned myself with 2 or 3 roofing companies that I give a lot of work to, and I get incredible pricing from that nobody else is going to be able to get. Same thing with parking lots and Brian and his group. So it is bringing all of our experience in, and, you know, to answer kind of the monopoly question, like Brian said, there isn't another company out there that has all the capabilities that we have. It doesn't say that you guys have to do the whole program. We bring a lot of expertise to the areas. You know, everybody's heard of Rudolph, Libbe, and the buildings that they're building. 1 million square foot at First Solar right now. You know, Gem Energy, you know, and all the capabilities that we bring. Energy Solutions with Greg and his group. So, you know, at the end is what we're trying to do is find those savings for you and save you money, you know, going forward. And yes, there is going to be a cost up front, and, you know, hopefully we will be able to show you as well what your return on investment is going to be. So here's the cost of the program. If you do this, this, and this, you know, here's where your return is going to be.
Please understand, I am in no way minimizing your company, your
I
expertise.
understand.
I've worked with Rudolph Libbe in the preparation of the Y here. I mean, it's exceptional. And I will admit that. I think that all of the work that you do is outstanding. It's not about the work. It's about the process.
Right, right.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
I have one more question.
Ms. Hirschberg?
You said the cost of the proposal was free.
Mhm.
What's included in that proposal? Because then you went back and I heard cost up front, then I heard cost on HVAC analysis, so
Well,
what
again,
will the free
part-
proposal?
Yeah, we're
Come
gonna
with.
break everything down, you know, from roof, building envelope, windows, parking lot, irrigation systems, HVAC, you know, everything from top to bottom, inside and out. We'll then put pricing to that. So say this building has, you know, 3 units on there. We will price out for you what the cost will be for us to come in, bring our technicians in, tear those pieces of equipment apart and assess them, and then provide a report as well as, you know, what we believe when you should be replacing that equipment. So that's when you'll see what the cost of it is. But initially, it's actually Brian and I that go around to all the 8 of the buildings, I think you sent over to us, Paul, to, you know, do a general walkthrough, get an idea what's there, and it's mostly your bigger equipment, you know, your HVAC equipment. You know, we do a lot of visual inspections. You know, if we're able to get up on the roof, we'll do that as well. And after we have put eyes on it after that is when we can start pricing out individually, you know, what the different costs are. Did that answer your question?
It does answer my question, but I think when we first had that meeting, I think I kind of told you that without pricing, this board wouldn't do anything, so.
What
Right.
if we would do, if they're gonna do that proposal for free?
Mr. Francis?
We're not proposing to do anything tonight, other than
Well, if we want to
receive
go
their
forward,
proposal.
Mhm.
which is fine, I'm just,
And that's what I,
the board's really not going to do much without something.
Nor should they,
Mhm.
yeah.
nor should they.
And that's why I guess I was asking about it going out for bid. I feel like it's like, you get this for, if this is a non-cost quote, more, for lack of a better term, I would say, like, make a motion to go forward and let them proceed with that, and then bring that back. And then, like I said, you're gonna have to figure out what you're gonna put out for bid, if you're gonna use, like, how you're gonna build specs and all of that. But I would think it would make sense to take advantage of that, to get the ball rolling forward, to give us something to work with.
But what you're saying is, can we do that without putting it out for bid first?
I would think so.
That's what you're saying.
I would think so, because you're not spending money. The purpose of things going out for bid is spending money.
But you're gonna get a bid back from them in order what to do without putting it out there for bid, that's what you're trying to get at, right? Like, they're gonna come back here with a quote,
Yeah.
and we haven't put it out for bid yet, so we're already
Bill,
gonna.
is there a problem with this?
You can accept the proposal from them if after you receive the proposal, if you wanted to use that proposal to build a bid specification sheet and put it out for bid to seek bids from other companies who do similar work, if there are any out there, you could do that. But to ask them to provide their proposal, to receive that proposal, to use that as a tool to either build a bid specification sheet or dissect it to determine what services that you would request them to do, and then build bid specification sheets based on that, you could do that. It gives you a starting point to work from.
And am I correct that from that point, you more or less would have to put that out for bid? Like, you'd have to, whether you use that for the spec or whatever, you can't do the other, where, okay, cool, looks good, and then let them go to work.
I'll give you a legal answer, it depends.
Uh-huh.
And what it depends on is what the cost is and what your bid policy, you have to follow your bid policy. The bid policy is self-imposed by the township to add integrity into the process. As we've said before, the Department of Treasury doesn't require bids like it used to for projects costing over X dollars, but I believe our internal bid policy, depending on the cost, would require it to go out for bids. but you have to build a bid specification sheet, otherwise your bidders aren't gonna know what they're bidding on, and it's gonna be difficult for them to bid and give a cost. A proposal received from Rudolph Libbe, I think, would assist you in determining what facets of what they offer you would want to take advantage of, then build a bid specification sheet based on that, and go from there.
No, I think at the very least, if not for anything else, that would be reason enough to have them move forward. And if we're done, I'll make a motion to do that.
Got one more
Yeah.
comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Francis.
It was mentioned earlier by someone in here, are we trying to replace the maintenance department? Absolutely no. These kinds of services that we're looking for are services that our maintenance guys cannot do. So we're not trying to replace the maintenance department. We haven't even talked about doing that.
The other thing I would add to maybe help is that Nancy's right. The Planning Commission needs to prepare a capital improvement plan. That's provided for by statute. But to assist the Planning Commission in doing that, if you had professionals, I'll give you an example, the roof on this facility. If you have a professional who's experienced with roofing, could go up there and identify the type of roof, identify whether that roof would be replaced with the same type of roof, or whether there's new technology available and it would be replaced with some other type of roofing membrane or shingles or whatever might be appropriate to be used, what the cost would be today and what the projected cost would be X number of years from now, when it would be expected that that particular roof will fail and need to be replaced. A company like this, I think, can do that for you. There may be other companies out there that can do that for you. That's where the assistance would come to help you put together your capital improvement plan.
I'd say it took us long enough to get a capital improvement plan fund. I don't think we need to spend it all as fast as we've finally established it, but it would give you a base to make those decisions that, like to Nancy's point of, this is what we need to be able to say yay or nay on any fill-in-the-blank project. So especially to at least get the proposal. So I'd make a motion to, I don't know if do we even have to make a motion to
I would.
give Rudolph Libbe the thumbs up to move forward on getting a proposal put together to present at a later date to the board?
I don't know if a motion's needed to do that, but if it is, I'll support it.
I don't know either.
We're asking them to prepare a proposal for us to consider at a later date when we get it.
It's not
And if at that point, we want to seek bids on certain parts of that, as Phil mentioned, we're free to do that and should do that. All we're asking for is a proposal.
Okay, we have a motion and support, discussion, Ms. Tinberry?
May I make a friendly amendment, Craig, that at no cost or bills to the township?
Accepted?
Who seconded?
Paul Francis.
I have no problem with that.
Yeah, accept the friendly amendment.
In fact, if we ever came in with a vendor that asked for a fee to prepare a proposal on how much it's going to cost us, we shouldn't even talk to that vendor.
Mr. Supervisor, from a discussion standpoint, we did talk about if they were to come in and say this is what we do all our work for, and they put some costs associated with that, and we're talking about, oh, then let's put a bid package together, but we've got these costs out here, those are public record now. So everybody that's going to bid is going to see their numbers up front. I think maybe we'd be better off, and if they would agree to it, say, you know what? Here is a bullet point list of every single thing that we will bid on. Use that to build your package, and then let them bid on it, because I don't think it's fair to them to have their numbers out there. Let them bid on what they say this is how we do our business. And then anybody else that can do the same thing will bid on the same specs, and their costs will all come in at the same time. Just my thought.
I agree.
I have no problem with that at all.
My only thought is, to put it out to bid, do you, like, I wouldn't think you would put something out to bid until you're deciding that you're going to move forward with, like, a specific project.
But we're asking them for a proposal with cost to it. A free proposal with cost associated if we decided to go with them going forward. And then if it hits our bid list anyway, because it's gonna be X amount of dollars, everybody else is gonna know what their proposal is. Mr. Goldsmith, what?
No, you raise an excellent point, and it would be an unfair advantage to other bidders to see what costs they associate with certain projects. So they would have to, I think, come on to our properties, take a look at what we have, and tell us, this is what we will do for you. This is what we will evaluate. We'll evaluate your HVAC systems. We'll evaluate your roof. We'll give you information as to what systems they should be replaced with and when you expect that they should be replaced. If they could do that without putting a cost, then you could build a big package and they could bid on even footing with that. I mean, if that's what you want to do. If you think you're going to put it out for bid, you're right, they would be on unequal footing because their costs would be disclosed to the public, or could be if someone submitted a Freedom of Information Act request.
I thought they were the ones who proposed to give the proposal.
Right, and we would write the specs for it, so you are comparing apples to apples, and basically, all we're doing here tonight was to show you what our capabilities are. A lot of people have heard of both of our companies, but never fully understood what all we are capable of. We wanted to provide you with that information and then basically ask you permission to go through your facilities and put together the pricing for the services that we just talked about. In the simplest form, that's all
No,
we're
and I
really
think that's-
asking right now.
That's the motion on the floor, is
Yeah,
what he just said.
Right. And I would just say, if it is going out for bid, then we would provide the spec for each of those. And, you know, good point, it's public record, and not only from our standpoint, but from yours, I don't think it would really benefit the township to put out pricing on what you're asking people to bid.
I feel somebody could undercut you to get the business then and give us shoddy work.
Well, we would never put pricing out of
Right.
what we're asking to bid on.
Well,
It would just give others an unfair competitive advantage if you disclose what your price would be.
Thank you.
Well, two things. I thought there wasn't competition, and second, like I said, I thought this was your guys', your guys' proposal is to give us a proposal, correct?
That's correct, but
So,
I
I
just
mean,
being,
I agree. I
being
just feel like
upfront-
this is like,
being upfront and honest with you.
and I mean,
I
we
didn't
don't,
think.
I'm not for just accepting lowest bids anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that would be taken into consideration. My only apprehension, as much as I agree with Mr. Steiner, is the dragging the process out to have to put everything before we can even
Well, let's
get
just
any
get
sort of
bid
idea.
specs instead of dragging this meeting out any longer.
Well, that's what I was trying to
People
do.
are falling asleep at home, so let's get some bid specs and,
Right.
you know,
Well, there's a motion on the floor.
okay, rescind your motion.
Hmm?
Then you need to rescind your motion. We're not making a motion for them. Your motion is for them to give
For a
us
proposal,
specs,
free.
proposal.
Mm-hmm.
Why would we need to rescind that? We're still asking for a proposal, aren't we?
I call the question.
Okay. Okay, do the roll call, Ms. Hertzberger.
Mr. Montroy,
Aye.
Mr. Francis,
Aye.
Ms. Tinnevery,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
No.
Mr. Clement,
No.
Hirschberger votes aye, Mr. Peroni.
Aye. The motion passed, 4-3.
So,
5-2.
5 to 2?
No, no, no.
I'm sorry.
Did you say no?
You said no.
I'm no, except for the, yeah, and my objection was purely on the pricing. I agree with Mr. Steiner completely. I think that puts Rudolph Libbe in a little bit of an unfair situation.
Well, they're not giving pricing with that.
And let me be clear, the only reason I voted no is because I just think it's an unfair advantage the way it was worded for them to put their costs out in front of everybody. Other than that, I would have voted yes.
Correct.
Okay. Well, that's what I tried to say to rescind the motion, but I didn't get heard, so. And that's part of the problem with this board. We need to start making phone calls before the meeting and get some information in our heads before we sit here for an hour and discuss something. It's crazy. Half the questions could have been answered before a meeting, and then you could say, hey, I asked these questions, here's the answers I got. Okay, moving on to public comment. Comments limited to 2 minutes per board agenda items only.
Good evening, Logan Tisdale, 1308 Brandywine Street. This is in regards to Bedford Township Board Agenda Item under information, Monroe County Sheriff's Contract Summary Report for July 2019 for Bedford Township. This is the summary stats for July 2019. 292 traffic stops, 34 traffic accidents, 188 traffic citations. This is the relationship statistics between 2017, 2018, and 2019 stats for the month of July for each of those years from Monroe County Sheriff's Contract Service Summaries for Bedford Township. There were 4 times more traffic stops in 2019 than there were in 2017. There were 13 more traffic accidents in 2017 than in 2019. There were 5 times more traffic citations issued in 2019 than in 2017. There were 2.5 times more traffic stops in 2019 than in 2018. There were 6 less accidents in 2019 than 2018. There were more than 2.5 times more traffic citations written in 2019 than in 2018. So what does this tell you? More to come with the 5-minute public comments. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments?
Dale Track, 2842 Sanibel Lane. Speaking on agenda item 7, establishment of a property assessed clean energy program and a PACE district program. I understand this resolution that you're going to discuss tonight and vote on tonight is much different than the previous meeting. And I just would like to go over what I touched on before, what I disliked about the previous one. That's the crony capitalism that was involved with that previous resolution. And I'm going to read a definition of this. Crony capitalism is an economy in which businesses thrive not as a result of risk, but rather as a return on money amassed through nexus between business class and the political class. This is often achieved by using state power rather than competition in managing permits, government grants, tax breaks, and other forms of state intervention. Now, I understand that this company that's proposing to do the lean and green for one of our businesses in Bedford here, is good at it. I get it. But basically, they were going to get an exclusive right to the township. And the township should never enter into an exclusive right like that. You just discussed for almost an hour about competitive bids and whatnot and procedures. Well, this is an example that we shouldn't be going forward with these kind of things. You know, this company came forward, wrote the resolution basically, said, okay, we're good at this. Let's make it happen. And by the way, we have a former state Speaker of the House working for us as a lobbyist who's going to get a 0.5% commission on every job that's done within the township. So you wouldn't do that if you were doing an SAD on roads. I wouldn't do it for anything else.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Any more comments?
Krieger, P.O. Box 281 in Lambertville. As most of you know, I'm a pro-growth guy. I'm not here to kill any deal for the schools.
Can you direct your comments to the chair, please, Mr. Krieger? Or to the board as it,
Anyhow, long story short, Schoolhouse Commons is where my office is. It's on 1.37 acres. They paid $400,000 for it X years ago. Temperance Road Elementary is 24.5 acres. They paid $400,000 for it. I just have a question for Mr. LaScala. Is there any way he could keep the front 2, 3, 4, 5 acres with the schoolhouse? Enough for him to do his 20 businesses, just like Schoolhouse has, and take the remainder of the 24.5 acres and give it to the Girl Scouts or the Boy Scouts or whatever, keep it green so we don't offend 200 people, 200 of your friends and 200 of my friends. That's it. Just wonder if he can give away the back, and does he need all 24 acres? That's all.
thank you for your comments. Any more comments from the public? Okay. Moving on to new unfinished business, 7A, establishment of a property assessed clean energy PACE program. Anybody from the Y would like to come up, or we just kind of want to discuss it up here? I just would like to be clear that I did call the CFO of the Y last week a week after our meeting, and I did talk to him to make sure for myself that he totally understood the options that are on the table. He informed me that he didn't really understand what the county was doing, so I explained to him that they're putting together basically the same program. They just wouldn't have a percentage involved. And I told him, I said, you know, for the look from the township, it looks like they're basically throwing away $15,000 to $20,000. I said, I've gotten phone calls on it, and I just wanted to make sure they understood that the county's doing the same program, and that you should at least take a look at it and give that option a thought. So he did. He talked to me yesterday, said he had a conference call with the county, and it looked like they were gonna use the county. I said, that's up to you. I mean, but I just wanted to make sure you understood your options. So I just want to be clear that that's what happened. The county did pass the program tonight unanimously. Correct, Mr. Goldsmith?
Yes, all 9 commissioners were there, and I received a text from my partner, Tom Graham, just for information for the board, that the resolution to engage into the PACE program was adopted unanimously by the County Board of Commissioners, and they expect to be prepared to start accepting applications and processing them on the 1st of September, so.
My thought is we've already paid Mr. Goldsmith to come up with a one-time use, and this board could pass it. If they want to use the one-time use with Lean and Green, go ahead. If they want to use the county, go ahead. So, I mean, either way, if they don't utilize the Lean and Green, we're going to be stuck with the legal bill. So, there you have it. Any thoughts or comments or questions, Ms. Tinderberry?
I would like the representative for Lean and Green to come forward, because I believe there's been some misinformation communicated, and I'd just like to get that cleared up. If I'm wrong, then he'll clear it up with me.
Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Todd Williams, Senior Counsel of Lean and Green, Michigan. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, the question is, the comment that was made by a member of the public stated that, can't remember the question now, that this was that you were an agency that had total control, and that the lobbyists that may work with your company will receive dollars for any projects that we would do.
2 points. One, with any of the member jurisdictions that we operate with, and 4, we do not have an exclusive contract. Any of them are able to contract with any other administrator who wants to come in and facilitate the program, or could facilitate a program on their own at the time. For our services, we are an administrator that does this full-time on their behalf, but we do not seek exclusive contracts with anybody, any of our members. As far as using a lobbyist, we have engaged an individual, a former Speaker of the House, to reach out on our behalf to a number of communities in the past. There is not a deal concerning Bedford Township. Anytime that he has done work for us and initiating initial phone calls and conversations, any money that he gets would actually come out of our fees that we would take as a private company. It is not something that we burden anybody with. It's not an additional charge that we use. It's actually a cost of service for us, only on successful deals that close. So this is an individual who's willing to partner with us to use his Rolodex and make introductions, taking a chance that he would never get paid on any particular deal.
And with regard to Bedford Township?
No.
Who started Lean and Green, Michigan?
The company was started by Andy Levin.
Okay, the former Speaker of the House, or former U.S. House Representative?
The current U.S. House Representative
current
for
US
District
House
9.
Representative.
He, as of the beginning of this year, no longer owns the company. One of the reasons we changed from the corporate name of Levin Energy Partners to Lean and Green Michigan was to distance ourselves and to not trade on the name of current sitting congressman, and out of respect to him, to get rid of any appearance of impropriety that a U.S. congressman was exerting influence on member jurisdictions within the state of Michigan. He is not involved in the company.
Wasn't that kind of what's happening right now with the former House rep? I mean, who's getting percentage?
No, we do not work with him currently on any areas or any projects. There are a few areas where he made introductions for us in the past where we still will honor a contract to remit payment to him, but we have no current arrangements with him.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
don't have any other questions. I don't know if anybody else does, but I just want to make sure that was cleared up. I would like to just go through the history here. I'm not a lobbyist. I was contacted by the director of the Y a couple of months ago because of our relationship that we've established since the time I was on the YMCA board, back when it first opened. And she called me because they had gone to the county a year ago, and the county paid no attention, did not get back with them, did not respond to calls, was pretty much rude, if you ask me. And so they wanted to move forward with this saving energy costs, and so she presented the whole PACE program to me. I talked to Mr. Williams on the phone to get his input and ask him questions that related to how this would affect our residents. And seemed like a no-brainer to me. I thought the county was not being very wise. I think it would have been a better option for the county to move forward, but they didn't. And so the YMCA had to wait a year. For a year, they had to waste money on their current energy bills. And so I brought it to this board. The board thought it was a good idea until all of a sudden some kind of behind-the-scenes politics began to arise, and all of a sudden everything changed. And who is being harmed by it but the YMCA? They're having to wait until government, whatever government that is, decides to make a decision. This isn't about us. This isn't about the township board. It's about helping a very profitable agency in our township that services 4,000 plus people, members. And excuse me if in some people's minds I am not positive, but it's difficult to be positive when you see government at its worst. And I just believe that we need to move forward. The YMCA has stated more than once that they would like to go with Lean and Green Michigan, and why we would get in the middle of that is beyond me.
Do you want to see the Y save $15,000 to $20,000, Nancy, of hard money that people donate for kids that could go to the Y and utilize? Would you like to see them save that kind of money? It's a yes or no question.
No, that's another fallacy. You don't understand, and you should, because you're associated with the Y. The money that is collected in scholarship money that goes to help families, veterans, children go to camp does have nothing to do with the money they're talking about in terms of their general fund.
But dollars is dollars.
No, dollars aren't dollars. The kids are not going to be affected by going to camp, or that's scholarship money that people donate, and you try to put
Okay,
all the
outside
pots
of that, they
together.
can save $20,000. Would you like to see them save that kind of money?
It's not my choice. It's their choice.
Okay, well, I
I'm
gave
not
them the
running
option.
company.
That's all I wanted to do, was give them the option. And guess what? They want to utilize that option, according to
they
the
do
CFL.
not.
That's what he told me. So why don't we vote
That's
and
not
move
what he told.
forward, and then they can utilize whatever option they want? At this point, what does it matter to the board? We've paid our legal to draft it, okay? Let's prove it, let's move forward, and let them do what they want. What does it matter at this point? Or do you want to keep trying to figure out politics here?
I'm trying to help out the Y.
Well, let's help them out. Let's make a vote, make a motion.
All right, I move that
There you
we
go.
approve the resolution to establish property assessed clean energy program as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Francis?
The way I read this is this doesn't lock us into anything. All we're doing is establishing a program that allows the township to support something that's either done through the county or any other entity, the way I understand this, and that's on the second page. It states that. We're not locking ourselves into any specific company. All this is establishing a pattern should we want to move forward and have another one come along. It's not client-specific at all, the way I understand it. Am I not understanding that?
Well, this was meant to be the one-time use for the Y, then this dissolves, correct?
It won't dissolve unless and until you dissolve it, but it establishes your PACE program and your PACE document that I amended and sent in. And then the contract will have to be developed. If the Y decides to use Lean and Green, as opposed to going through the county and its administrator, then they can do that. And this resolution authorizes them to do that. One of the paragraphs says, resolve, the township may join with the county of Monroe and/or any other local unit of government, or with any person or with any number or combination thereof by contract or otherwise, as may be permitted by law, for the implementation of the Bedford Township PACE program in whole or in part. So adoption of this resolution would, whether it's done through Lean and Green, through the township, and we enter into the contractual agreement with Lean and Green, it'll be done by private financing. It won't be done by bonding. There won't be any obligation by the township, and the same will apply to the county. The county is privately financed.
So basically, we have to put this back on the agenda to remove it, once we adopt it.
Yes. If you decide to do that at a later time, yes, you would have to put it back on the agenda and move to amend. And that doesn't require a public hearing to do that. We've had our public hearing. We've taken comment from the public. You're able to proceed as you wish. I don't know if you want to hear from the YMCA, if they're prepared to speak on it, if they're prepared to say we're going to go with the county, or we would prefer to go with Lean and Green.
I've talked to Laura and Lori, and she's directed me in you come on up. But from my understanding, Lori, isn't the decision maker, but, the
No,
bill
when it comes
was
to
from
this, I am not the decision maker. It would be done through our corporate offices.
if we have both in front of us, I have no idea which way we're gonna go. I can't answer that question. What I know is that we do have a partnership with Lean and Green. I know that Paul talked to Phil, our CFO. Those are the two things I do know, but I don't know which way we will go, so.
But I'm saying, from what Phil told me, they're gonna go with the county. So, at this
Did the
point,
CFO say that to you?
Got a question?
That they're going with the county? No, they will make that decision.
but he told
when the
that to
time
me.
comes.
I know you don't trust me, but he told that to me, so. Mr.
I have a
Francis.
question. Should the Y choose to go with Lean and Green, wouldn't that require another contract signed by the by the township to
Yeah.
enter into that?
Yes.
So this is not the end vote.
No.
All this does is establish a procedure, I guess, a program. The next step is whoever applies for that then picks who they want to
Yes.
use. So
It-
we're not committing to anything
By
regarding Lean and
adoption
Green
of
tonight.
this resolution, you are approving the PACE program. That is correct. If the Y chose to make application through the county and use the county administrator to facilitate their program with a private lender and a contractor of their choice and a lender of their choice, they could do that. If they chose to use Lean and Green, they could do that. It'll be up to them and their budgetary constraints and how they wish to spend their dollars, and they'll have to analyze that and decide, their board will have to decide one way or the other. But this establishes a PACE program for Bedford Township and the jurisdictional boundaries of Bedford Township. If, my advice will be, if the Y decides to go with the county program, I most likely will advise you to rescind your resolution at a later time or vote to rescind it. If you're going to then partner with the county for future projects. I think Mr. Peroni is correct. If you adopt the resolution, that does give the Y a choice to go with either of the Lean and Green or through the county.
Ms. Tenenberry?
So what did the county adopt? Are they adopting a PACE program that anyone that applies through them can go to Lean and Green as well?
No.
They don't have a PACE program?
The county this evening adopted the resolution and they established their PACE program.
Well, isn't that what we're doing?
That's what's before you this evening, that's correct. The county's program and their plan, which was published, their plan is for it to be administered by the county administrator, CFO. They won't use an outside intermediary like Lean and Green. They could if they chose to, but they're choosing not to, at least at the inception. And they will use resources available to the county through the Business Development Corporation, Tim Lake, Matt Vanasacker, and they are in the process and will develop a list of lenders, a business owner, commercial or industrial owner within the county might want to use their own lender. And the county will assist in making sure the requirements of Public Act 270 of 2010 are met, that there's going to be a proper return on investment, things like that. Lean and Green does that, as well as they administer a program. So the county will do it. It's fully expected. There won't be a percentage charged. There will be an application fee, and then there will be the applicant, the property owner will pay the costs, just the costs associated, and but there will not be a percentage, and there won't be points paid over the term of the loan either. So those are the main differences. So administration by the county versus administration by Lean and Green. I can't say any bad things about them. I think they know what they're doing. Our county administrator is well-versed, and Tim Lake is well-versed in business development. And I think that's how the county got its wheels turning, because And you're right, the initial presentation to the county wasn't well received by some of the commissioners who thought maybe this is not something we want to get involved in. But as time passed on and as Tim Lake got more involved through business development throughout the entire county, I think the attitude changed. Obviously it did because they adopted the resolution tonight. So I hope that helps answer the questions.
Ms. Tenenberry?
I would like to make one change in the resolution, and that would be that the supervisor and clerk authorize and execute and deliver such documents, not just the supervisor and his designee. Almost all of our should be signed by the supervisor and clerk together.
It would be authenticated in any event by the clerk, absolutely. And that changes, certainly, I have no objection
What
to that.
The documents show both signing, so. Good catch, Nan.
Adopting this tonight allows the Y to proceed in making a choice. Do they want to use Lean and Green, or do they want to go to the county? It doesn't have anything to do with us. We're just saying, if you choose to go with Lean and Green, this is the first step. If you choose not to, we don't need this step.
If they choose
All we're
not,
doing, I guess this doesn't, adopting this tonight doesn't cause a further delay in their process, because they'd like to get going with their project. They've waited
could you call the roll, please?
a long time.
Ms. Tenenberry?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Okay, item 8A, vouchers for payment.
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General Fund, $65,337.35. Fire District, $33,560.54. Police Fund, $1,834.64. Park Fund, $4,377.63. Fire Equipment, $4,500. Library Fund, $1,544.97. Downtown Development Authority, $1,624.57. Sewer O&M Fund, $48,012.48. Trust and Agency Fund, $944, for a grand total of $161,736.18.
I'll support.
Okay, motion is supported. Mr. Francis, discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye, excuse me.
He knew he was next.
Sorry.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Tenenberry?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8B, a waiver of a sign waiver fee for an LED message board for the Bedford Branch Library. I'd like to make a motion that we waive the fees for the message board for the Bedford Branch Library.
Support.
Motion supported by Mr. Clemens. Discussion. Ms. Tenenberry?
Is there a building permit required
I'm sure there is.
for a sign? I think there is, so should we waive that as well?
I'll add it to my motion to waive all fees associated with the sign.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, just call the roll, please.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Tenenberry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
The motion passed 7-0. Item 8C, rezoning from R2B, one family residential, to PBO, professional business office, on parcel number 5802-022-038-00, also known as 1575 West Temperance Road, formerly Temperance Road Elementary School. Could the representatives come on up for the school? Or La Scala, both? To me, it's exciting to see a building that has been sitting vacant for a number of years and has been a burden for the schools. finally get off their back, and actually it's gonna go to good use. I'm excited for La Scala. I think it's a great project, what he's talking about, and it's exciting that, you know, we'll have a vibrant building in the community, so I appreciate it, and I appreciate your willingness to take a chance on this, so. Dr. Carl, you wanna add anything?
When you were doing the presentation earlier to the Family Medical Center, it was mentioned that it was formed right there at Temperance Road. They didn't mention the building, but that's where it started. Over the years that the school district has operated the facility, it has been numerous different offices. It has had the WIC Center, Women, Infant, and Children Center. It has had administrative offices for the district, the Family Medical Center, for-profit child care centers. So this has been a facility that we've operated for many years. Unfortunately, with the population trends that we have, we no longer have a use for it. And for the past 5 years, the district has spent roughly $50,000 each year on maintenance and maintaining the building as well as we could. It's difficult, as you know, to maintain 24-plus acres when you don't have somebody housed there. And we'd like to, and we owe it to the community to be diligent and thoughtful in the transition of the property. And through the sealed bid process, which we've done twice since my arrival, in addition to the town hall forums that the board held prior to my arrival, I think we heard loud and clear what the community was looking for. And this is one of the top choices in terms of a mixed-use facility for office space, not only to allow additional office space, but to house somebody from the community that wanted to take care of it really better than we could for the $50,000 that we're spending. I know it can look a lot better. It's looked better in the past, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of the design work that's going to take place when La Scala IT takes it over.
Okay. Any comments from the board? Questions? Did you raise your hand? I thought you raised your hand. No? Okay. Seeing none, I look for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion. This came before the Planning Commission July 24th. There was no recommendation from the county planning due to lack of quorum for their meeting. So I'd like to move that this board approve the request of Bedford Public Schools for the rezoning of parcel number 5802022-03800 from R2B, one family residential zoning district, to PPO professional business office zoning district located on the south side of Temperance Road, the east side of Jackman Road, otherwise known as 1575 West Temperance Road, Temperance, Michigan, as it is a good repurposing of the building in that area, no significant impact on the area, and recommended by Bedford Township Planner Lucy Fortin's review letter.
Second.
Okay, motion is supported, Mr. Steiner. Discussion? Mr. Steiner?
It's not so much discussion, but a quick comment. Again, repurposing a building that can sit there idle and basically turn into to destruction at some point. Again, the school, I hate to say washed their hands of something, but you're eliminating something that's a true cost to the school system. And hopefully Mr. La Scala can really develop something in there that's going to be, it'll also help some local businesses to be able to put, maybe they're operating out of a home that they can't develop a business right now as much as they want to. They can go into some place like this and give them more opportunity as well.
Can you comment to the comment that was made about hindering the 200 homes behind the property? Is there plans to do more with the property, or what? I'm a little confused at the comment that was made.
We don't have any plans right now.
Okay. I didn't think so, but.
We just want to move it.
Okay.
Mr. Bryan, one last question too, and according to the map too, you also there's a gas pipeline going through that property.
There is.
So that does have some prohibiting factors based on that pipeline.
Yeah. Mr. Francis?
Another positive of this is it puts it back on the tax roll.
Which we'll talk about.
Ms. Tenenberry?
Yes, I wish they would have brought the renderings that they brought to the Planning Commission, because it's just beautiful. The transition of, the building now to what Mr. Scala has proposed is just beautiful. And we talked a lot about the traffic, and from what was discussed, and it seems reasonable to me that the business traffic of offices there will be far less than the school district traffic of school buses and children and all of that. And Dennis Jenkins lives right next door, and he was all in favor of it. So I think that all's a positive movement.
Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Tinneberry?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Clement?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Prony?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Thank you, guys. Sorry I had to wait so long. Okay, item 8D, zoning text amendment to amend the provision to regulate outdoor display for sales in a C3 zoning district. Mr. Goldsmith, could you give us a little history on what we've done here? You've worked closely with the Planning Commission.
Yes, the zoning amendment that you have in front of you tonight will allow as special use outdoor sales display in C3 districts under certain standards and conditions. The matter, a public hearing, of course, was conducted in front of the Planning Commission. No recommendation came out of that meeting, unfortunately, because it ended in a 3-3 vote. There was one member absent at that meeting, so no recommendation came out of our Township Planning Commission. Likewise, there was not a quorum present for the Monroe County Planning Commission meeting, and so no recommendation came out of that body. So this board is the legislative body of the township and makes the decision in any event, whether there's a recommendation or no recommendation, or regardless of what the recommendation might be. So it's up to this board either to adopt the proposed zoning ordinance amendment, which again would allow, under certain conditions and standards, as a special use, outdoor sales display in C3 zoning districts. It also allows, without special use approval, outdoor display that's without approval as a matter of right in a C3 zoning district, certain outdoor display, but that's limited, I believe, if memory serves me correct, to 400 square feet. So that's what you have in front of you.
Okay. Comments from board members or discussion? Ms. Tinneberry?
As a member of the Planning Commission, this was discussed at length, and 3 members wanted to approve it, 3 voted to deny it. And I would just like to read the comment from Jody. An inquiry was presented to the Planning Commission for a new business to develop in the township, which would include a large area for outdoor display of sales. Once the Planning Commission had an opportunity to review the ordinance, it was discovered there was no provision to allow such intense outdoor use. Discussion commenced with the Planning Department and Leonard Graham and Goldsmith to move forward with amending the language. First of all, I'm opposed to the way that it came about. We've recently, since this, of course, came up with a policy that the Planning Department, the Ordinance Department cannot decide with the attorney to move forward with spending money to amend an ordinance. The ordinance did not allow for outdoor display. That was told to the applicant or the representative of the applicant many times, and my belief, my interpretation is that they were pressured into this, calling Leonard Graham and Goldsmith to discuss what could be done, and of course an amendment came out of that. First of all, there's a reason that it wasn't in the ordinance, because we haven't wanted it. The township planning commissions of the past and the boards of the past have not wanted that kind of outdoor sales in that kind of zoning. It's permitted, I believe, in industrial zoning, so it's not excluding it, but it's just not permitted in that type of zoning. believe that our ordinance has the provision for them to go to the ZBA if they want to have some other, something that isn't in the ordinance rather than spending money to amend the ordinance. And I don't think that the location or the use of outdoor display, I've been by many that just look abominable. They're just not nice looking at all. And my fear is that if we just change the ordinance because somebody wants some kind of business, it's not out of a need for something that we want to have in Bedford that we don't have in an ordinance. It would be not any different than we don't have strip clubs in an ordinance, but somebody comes and wants to establish a strip club, well, we just have to change our ordinance to allow it. So I'm opposed to the process in which this came about, and I'm opposed to the outdoor sales.
Okay, so this process has been the same process that you were involved with Mulch King, okay, and other ones. It's the same process before this board just created a new one. So this is no different. So you're opposed to the way this was done, but not the other ones. And
I didn't
who
say
told
that.
you they were pressured? Did they tell you that?
Say that.
Did they tell you they were pressured?
They told me that they were approached many times, and they gave the answer, that does not fit with our ordinance, many times.
So they were pressured into calling legal?
Well, if you keep going back and asking the same question when they've been told, that doesn't
Okay. Well, I wouldn't
fit
put
with our
words in their
ordinance.
mouths, though, because they were not pressured. And,
Well, that's your interpretation. I
no, they
said
told me
it's my-
that, so.
It's my belief, that's what I said.
Okay, so my opinion on this is, this is for C3. It's 400 square foot of outdoor storage. Anything that this company, Ms. Tinneberry, brings up would have to go back for special use, right? To get their, 15,000 square foot of outdoor storage. So what she
Yes.
talks about, they can't just go right now for special approval to get it, because, if you want to explain that.
Well, if the ordinance amendment is adopted and for an expansive outdoor display area, yes, it would have to go for special use
No,
approval.
I'm saying they can't right now without this, they can't just go for special
No.
approval right now to get the outdoor storage.
Outdoor storage or outdoor display in a C3 zoning district is not allowed by our current zoning ordinance. That's correct. And it's not a special use approval item in a C3 district either.
So that, just to make that clear, because Ms. Tinneberry brought that up too. This is a trend. We have a lot of businesses right now with outdoor storage, a lot. And so we really need to address all the issues that we have in this township. And I believe C3, 400 square foot of outdoor storage, isn't too much to ask. I mean, a lot of places like to put stuff outside for sale or whatnot. Gas stations do it, they put mulch out, they're all doing it. So now we'll have an actual ordinance that oversees it. So I think it kind of is looking to the future to clean up a mess that we already kind of have. So I think it's a great idea, and I'm all in favor of it. Mr. Francis?
I agree. There are several businesses in the township that have outdoor sales displays. Probably violating our ordinance, unless when they presented a site plan, it was included in that and approved. That's the only way it would be legal. Well, that would be the only way it'd be in compliance with the ordinance. All the rest of them are in non-compliance. If we adopt this kind of an ordinance amendment, it sets a policy. Now, if they want more than 400 square feet for outdoor display area, they can seek a waiver or ask us to amend that and increase it. But what it does is, and if it's adopted, and I think it should be, I don't think it's client-specific.
Actually, if I could interrupt you, I'm
Please,
sorry.
Please do.
400 square feet would be allowed of right as a principal permitted use in a C3 zoning district. Anything beyond that would require special use approval, an application, a public hearing, and our our special use approval process that we have established in our ordinance, and the standards of the ordinance would have to be met, and the general standards in our zoning ordinance as they relate to special use would have to be met. So anything above and beyond the 400 square feet, which is a principal permitted use if this ordinance is adopted, would go through the special use approval process. Just to clarify how the ordinance is designed.
And in my opinion, which isn't worth much to anyone, but if we did put this into place and had the amendment adopted, I think we should look at the ones that are violating the ordinance that it was in place and maybe think about asking them to comply. If they fit in the 400 square feet for outdoor display, fine, there's no problem. But if they use 1,000 square feet, maybe they need to change.
If there are businesses within the township that were not provided with site plan approval for their existing use, it would be expected that they would need to make application for special use approval. And I say that because they wouldn't enjoy a prior legal nonconforming use status because the prior use isn't necessarily legal. And so that my opinion would be they would have to apply unless they had site plan approval before for the use that they are employing. And remember, this is outdoor display. There are some properties that have been allowed through site plan approval to have outdoor storage behind their storefront and covered with certain types of structures. So that would be the distinction.
Ms. Tinnery?
What I'm hearing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when we have people violating an ordinance, we contact our attorney and we amend the ordinance so that they're not violators. So that would be, we're going to allow chickens because people have chickens, and so we actually will probably not need an ordinance department, because when an ordinance is violated, it seems like that's the ordinance department's job to go recognize them, talk it over with them, send them letters and tickets or whatever. But what I'm hearing is that the alternative to that is to just amend our ordinance so that violators of our ordinance will fit into our ordinance.
Yeah, that's actually the opposite, Nancy. We're complaint-based ordinance department, you know that, and so somebody has to be complained on in order for our ordinance department to go out there. Well, we know that there's a lot of offenders out there, okay? So the only way for them to get in trouble and to get shut down is if we have a complaint. They don't just go knocking on businesses' doors saying, hey, you have outdoor storage, we're shutting you down.
No, I'm
Mr.
saying
Steiner?
we're going to amend our ordinance to fit them in.
Mr. Steiner?
Taken right from the minutes of the Planning Commission, the question came up, and Attorney Camperth made the statement that the ordinance is a permissive ordinance, and the list of permitted uses are set forth in each zoning district, and if that use is not listed, it is presumably not allowed. That's the problem that we have to clean up once again. It's presumably. Presumably not allowed doesn't mean that it's not allowed. It means presumably not allowed. It's not black and white, it's gray. Going down further, it also asked about grandfathering, and Mr. Camperth also stated there is no grandfathering unless there was an ordinance that prohibited it. So we've also heard a few of the board members make comment about current businesses. And to the statement of, we have an ordinance department that is strictly complaint-based. We don't send our ordinance department around looking for these businesses to say, okay, who stores outside and who doesn't. But yet, the ordinance department has not been flooded with calls stating that, and I won't mention any companies, you know, because I don't think it's fair. I don't want to call anybody out, but we do have companies that do have outdoor storage. But nobody's calling to say, you need to get them to take that outside storage away. Now, if it's an eyesore, absolutely. But we're also looking right now at 400 square feet. Does anybody realize how small 400 square feet is? 20 by 20. 20 by 20. This dais up here takes up more space than that. Look at the length of this. And we're, what, 15 feet? We're probably 550 square feet sitting right here. We're not taking up a lot of space. The ordinance will state that if it's over 400, they must go for a special approval. So here again, if we don't make this black and white, that says 400 is the limit or else, and if Mr. Kemper states there's no grandfathering, our other businesses are going to have to come in and say, you know, I've been using, 800 square feet or 600 square feet for 30 years. Nobody's ever complained. Then they're going to have to apply for that variance because there's no grandfathering.
I think some of us have been confusing outdoor storage with outdoor sales displays. And this is a sales display question, not a storage question.
And if I said storage, I
You did.
misspoke. I meant
Well,
to say sales.
Almost everyone up here did.
That's-
But it's different.
Correct.
And keep in mind, take our focus off of a company coming here, Tractor Supply. Focus on the ordinance. Okay, so anybody else have any comments or questions? Seeing none, I look for a motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I make motion to accept the proposed ordinance amendment that does show the stipulation of a maximum of 400 square feet will be applied in the ordinance, and anything outside that 400 square feet must come for a variance approval to do so.
Support.
Okay, motion in support of Mr. Clements. Discussion?
May I interject?
Mhm.
Do you mean a variance or do you mean special use approval? Because the ordinance is as drafted now, anything in excess of 400 square feet for outdoor sales display requires special use approval. That's how it's drafted.
I'll take the advice of the attorney and I'll change the language there.
Accept? Okay, supported by Mr. Clements. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Clements?
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry?
No.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-1. Okay, item 8E, Bedford Township Government Booth at the Temperance Street Fest. There's a little typo in there. It's $25, not $50. So I'm looking for approval to have a booth at the Temperance Street Fest, so I can have information on ordinances, clerk's department for different stuff with their department as far as passports, whatever, and then we can be there to answer any questions to the public. So it's another way to get out there where there's gonna be a lot of people, and so looking for approval.
Can you get it for free,
No,
so we don't spend any tax dollars?
no, because it's $25 for all.
But can you get it?
Probably if I asked, but I
free?
mean, that's what they're charging for booths. It's $25. Do you want me to pay for it out of my pocket?
Sure.
Sure.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Yes, second.
Jeez, oh, Pete.
Paul made the motion, true
Ah,
second.
gosh. Okay,
Or get
I'll
it
pay
free.
for it out of my pocket. Somebody make a motion?
You did.
Okay,
I
I'll make a
seconded
motion
it.
that I'll pay for the government booth at the Temperance
Second.
Street Fest in the amount of $25.
I already got that second in.
Jeez, oh, Pete. Okay. Call the roll, please.
Wait a minute. Discussion.
A discussion.
I'm troubled by it a little bit. This is not a township-sponsored event, is it?
Neither is
No.
the BBA.
No.
But the BBA, I think, has some benefit to the entire citizenry or population of Bedford Township.
How's that?
It asks vendors to come in that service all those areas. This primarily benefits the Temperance area. And I just don't think it's right for the Township Board to be spending money on
We're not,
something.
Paul is.
It's another way to get out into the community, Paul. I mean,
Oh, I
the
don't-
whole community's invited.
I'm not
It's not-
quibbling
it's
with
not
that
just
at
the
all.
temperance.
I'm not quibbling with that at all.
Mr. Supervisor. I support this wholeheartedly, whether it's been 50, 25, your wallet. The only thing I would say that we do need to do is going forward, we need to think about this in terms of which events, how many events, what the budgetary impact could be. And my real fear is that an event asks us to participate, we either can't because no one's in town, budget, and all of a sudden that's viewed as disinterested, not supportive. So I just want to be sure that while we're getting in the community, and I applaud that we're careful to be sure we don't accidentally offend or upset because of some other unrelated thing, just as we go forward.
Go ahead, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barone?
Aye.
Hertzberger votes aye. Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Okay, and the motion passed 7-0. Number 9, comments from the public. Comments limited to 5 minutes for each individual.
Good evening again, Logan Tisdale. You compare the last 3-year stats for the month of July, and you see a huge increase in traffic stops in 2019 from the previous 2 years. A reduction in traffic accidents in 2019 from the previous 2 years, and a humongous increase in traffic citations in July 2019 from the previous 2 years in the same month. What happened that there is such a disparity in numbers over the last 3 years and a sudden increase in traffic citations in July 2019? Was it because Logan has been publicly complaining about the lack of monthly traffic activity posted by the Monroe County Sheriff's Department contract deputies for the last 2.5 years? If I entertained that thought for one moment, then I would have to assume that as a senior citizen in this community, my opinion actually counts. It is ludicrous for me to even think that this is being a remote possibility. Did the board put pressure on the Monroe County Sheriff's Department to start doing the traffic work necessary to make Monroe Township a safer place to live and drive? Does this thought also fall into the category of ludicrous? Or has the public finally awakened and realized that community policing as defined by the Monroe County Sheriff's Department is just a way to justify the lack of traffic enforcement in this township? Would that also fall in the category of ludicrous thinking? Or is there something happening at this particular time for the sudden discovery that there are actual traffic violations happening in this township which has not happened in previous years? Does this also fall into the category of ludicrous? There's always been this type of activity in Bedford Township. The number of traffic accidents in the years 2017 and 2018 show people are violating our traffic laws. 5,000 hours on patrol over the last 26-month period from January 2017 until February 2019 without one single traffic citation being written in Bedford Township by the contract deputies was something that this board has been advised of by me on many occasions. Now suddenly traffic citations magically appear in Bedford Township. I was amazed at seeing the activity for July this year. I was amazed. If that activity would have been that way 2.5 years ago, I probably would have never been up here. All of a sudden now there's a big increase in there. Does this vindicate me with this board? I'd be ludicrous in thinking that. Does it vindicate me with the public? I'd be ludicrous in thinking that. It's ludicrous for me to think that one citizen could come up here and bring something to the board which is obviously documented by proof that this has been going on for so long that would actually make a difference in any government. It's ludicrous for me to even think that way. And that's the appalling part. I should feel good about this, but you know what? This is probably one of the saddest days I've ever spent at this township meeting, thinking that all of this has been out there, and now all of a sudden it magically appears. And I'm thinking all the people that have gotten away with violating our traffic laws and causing dangerous situations in our community, and nothing has been done about it in the past. As a former police officer, it's mind-boggling to me. And I think of all the monies that have been lost by this township for legitimate traffic violations that have taken place that have not been discovered that could have been put into the township treasury. legitimate ones. I'm not talking about chicken and stuff. I'm talking about legitimate fines and costs that could have been the least fines that we put in here that we don't have, that other townships get because they have police officers going out there writing traffic citations that are valid traffic citations, and that money gets revamped back into our community, which could have been used for something else, maybe to hire another deputy, who knows? But the bottom line is, I don't feel very good about seeing all these extra numbers. And if this has anything to do with something coming up where they're going to do a millage on police officers and stuff, I wonder if after that gets voted in, and my guess is it probably will. I'm not going to vote for it, to be honest with you. But if it gets voted in, we'll see if that activity continues over the next months. Something to look at, and I think this township board will look at that. And I just hope that people come to realize that there are people out there violating our laws, and that with good traffic enforcement, it can reduce the number of accidents. It already did this month, by 6, I think, for 1 year, and like 17 from the year before. That's a huge decrease in accidents. You take enforcement action, and it decreases accidents. At least that's the idea behind it. And I just hope that people on this board recognize that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments from the public?
Very quickly, you've all seen Bedford, Michigan, where Michigan begins. We've had great reaction to that video by a lot of people, and we show it out there again, and we get more good reaction. We had a minister use it to try to get some help from out of state, and he says that that video had a lot to do with it. So what this means is that we have a good tool here. For one, for employers to try to take employees from out of town and bring them to Bedford. Realtors should be using this as a tool. If anybody here who doesn't get onto YouTube would like me to send them the link so they can look at it again, let me know. But let people know to use this as a tool. Get people to come to our township, get businesses to come to our township, and get employees to come here. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments from the public?
My name is Brian Miller, 1409 West Samaria. I just was wanting to address you guys. I was found in violation of the ordinance, so I was given 30 days to comply with that, which I did. Going through this process, I just see that you have people out there that sure they care about their property value or whatever they're complaining on the ordinance about, because it is complaint-based. I heard that tonight. I found that out through the process. So I guess what I'm asking is for thought as far as going forward, and it doesn't have to be next month or whatever, but just somebody to think about this, that when an ordinance is, when they send somebody out to enforce that the person complaining, their property is also scrutinized, so that way it doesn't get to a tit for tat or a giant neighborhood argument or anything like that, because it's more or less happened with me. Had this person's property been in full compliance, or had they known that they're going to have to be in full compliance, then possibly this would have never evolved into what it has. I'm not looking to get away with things, for sure. I know when I did talk to people at the township, they said they've had discussion amongst the board or board members about making the ordinance department like a full-time position where they go out and they do look for ordinance violations and just write everybody up. I don't know that that's what I'm after, but just something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Any more comments from the public?
Bob Tinfrey, 3962 Coachman Drive. I just have a quick comment on the ordinance enforcement issue. It is on a complaint basis, I understand that, but it seems to me that it has led to an uneven enforcement of our ordinances throughout the township, and that leads to confusion. It also leads to one neighbor saying, well, how come they can do what, a violence, an ordinance violation, and they come down on me? And it's, like I say, it's uneven and leads to confusion, I think, in some of the public, and might want to think about maybe going away from complaint-based to actually, you see a violation, you make notice of it. That's all.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Any more comments from the public?
7 North Park. I just want to say in the buildings, I found the conversation very interesting because working in this building over the last several years, there's a lot of inefficiencies. Your building's not balanced, it's not zoned properly. Right now, we're cooling rooms that nobody's even using. When we went into this with Paul, it was like, where's your maintenance plan? Well, there is none, because your maintenance department doesn't really take care of the buildings like real maintenance departments do. Like if you worked at ProMedica, they got a head facilities manager. They figure out your roof. They figure out what you're gonna need. They figure out what kind of trades will this building need. We have a lot of buildings in Bedford. It's not just this building that we need to take a look at. And it's the same way we don't have controls for this building. So we're operating, once again, very inefficiently. It's the same way if we have a disaster in this building. I've been in buildings and have seen a $300,000 water claim because the sprinkler systems broke and nobody was called at 2 o'clock in the morning. And that can be real messy because now your operations are shut down. Same way with a fire, okay? We don't have a designated restoration company that we can call at 2 o'clock in the morning. We don't have somebody that can come in and say, hey, your whole electrical system is shut down. What do we do now? So I think when we take a look at our buildings, the problem that you really had the day this building was opened is the day your capital improvement plan should have been enforced. Because you already knew all your warranties, you knew where everything was at, you knew what you paid for everything, so all you would have had to do was put in inflation factors and check on that every so often. Fire chief now comes to us and says, hey, we need $400,000 for improvements. Yes, he does. But where were we 10 years ago? We should have been doing this. We have park buildings. We've got 3 firehouses. They all need maintenance. They all need a plan. So whether you do it in-house or wherever, it needs to be done because we don't really have it. And we do need people that have that expertise. For example, you need to make a decision when this roof goes, and right now that roof is probably about 40 grand to replace, 35,000. Do you use asphalt or should you go to a steel roof? Those decisions should be made today so that you can start planning for it. Just like Pearl Albert Green did on the sewer plant when she started saving money. This township needs to start doing this on these buildings because one day you're gonna wake up in 10, 15 years and say, wow, this is gonna cost us a lot more money in the roof because we never looked at it. The HVA system, I hate to tell you folks, but we're wasting a lot of money there. I mean, it's terrible. That's why the library is going to get a control system so that they can be more efficient in terms of what they're doing. So I think no matter how you accomplish it, it needs to be done. And if we have to look at other townships, for example, Pittsfield's our size. I'm sure they have buildings. I looked up Bath Township. Some of the townships, they're smaller. They might only have 1 building. That's easier to maintain. That's easy to come up with a plan for that. But we need a plan for our parks buildings. We need a plan for here. We need a plan for those firehouses. So however we accomplish it, we just need to do it some way, somehow. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments from the public? Seeing none, comments from board members. Ms. Tinneberry.
Yeah, I have a couple things. One, it is my belief that our board should require all new appointees to statutory committees to be trained, to have some training. We appoint people that are friends, neighbors, relatives, not necessarily with expertise in the area that they are working. I know the committees that we're talking about for the fire department, there are stipulations on what types of backgrounds have to be, but I think that our board should require training within a year and then ongoing training. If people want to be reappointed to a board, then they should be able to stipulate that they have had training. I received this Planning Michigan, the Michigan Association of Planning 2019 Annual Conference. It's an excellent, excellent conference. It's only $390 per person for members, and I think that's relatively, it's a week-long program, about 3 or 4 days, but you don't have to stay for the whole time. There's things that you can pick and choose on what sessions you go to, so I think that's excellent. I'd also like to, don't know if any of you have read your MTA, hopefully you have, but the MTA bulletin that was sometime either last week or this week states if recent sales tax revenues continue upward, so townships should see an increase in their state constitutional revenue sharing. I'm not saying we should spend that money, but I think that that's a positive note and something that we should keep in mind. Maybe some of that money can go into our capital improvement. And also grant funding. I know we have some people on the grant committee. Grant funding is available to expand rural broadband, and there's a link there to be able to check on that. So some good things go down through the MTA and through other agencies, planning, Michigan Planning Association that we're a member of, and I think we should take advantage of those things. Thank you.
Mr. Steiner?
Nothing this evening.
Mr. Clemens?
Two things. First off, I wanted to thank you for having Rudolph Libbe Group here. I think regardless of the outcome, I think the comprehensiveness of having a look at that is, to say we're going to engage in capital improvement and not do that, I think is somewhat farcical. I tell my kids, I used to tell officers that I trained, I've told those that I work with, that sometimes you're most dangerous when you don't know that you don't know. And I think that sometimes as a board of 7, we all have histories and backgrounds and we know a lot, but I don't think any of us bear the skill set of that level of complex maintenance. Don't know where it will go, but I appreciate it being brought to the board. Other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Montry?
Nothing for me.
Okay. Mr. Francis?
Just to note that the summer real estate taxes are due by September 16th, which is a Monday. The reason it's extended is because the 14th falls on a Saturday, and we're not open on Saturday, so it's automatically to the next business day. So if they're paid by September 16th, there'll be no late penalty or interest charged on that, and I just want to remind folks of that.
Okay. Ms. Hirschberger?
We want to remind the residents that the township will be closed on Monday, September 2nd to observe Labor Day. The planning department is seeking applications for a seasonal worker. The deadline is this Thursday at 5 p.m. That's the 22nd. You can find the information on the Bedford Township website or stop in my office. Also, the library is accepting bids for cleaning. Those bids should be submitted by September 13th at 2 p.m. Again, those details are on our website. And I didn't know the chief wasn't going to stand up and talk about it, but the Bedford Fire Department will hold a service ceremony for the new ladder truck at 10 a.m. on August 31st at Station 3. That's all.
Okay. If it seems like I was frustrated, and I 150% was, it gets old having certain trustees come to this board with I gotcha moments instead of working together as a team and making phone calls and doing a little homework and not just trying to figure out how we can not do it. It's 100% old, and the most stressful part of this job is dealing with Ms. Tinberry on the end, has been for me personally. I've never dealt with more negativity in my whole life. So And it's sad that, because we could do a lot more if we'd work together and not just try having I got you moments. But I just wanted to talk about the work going down in downtown Temperance. They are in full force doing the sidewalk work. It's looking great down there. I'm excited. A lot of positive things going on right now. But just to talk about the Street Fest, the roads will close at 9 o'clock, and they will reopen at 4. We will be down there as a township booth. I think it's a great idea for us to be out there in the public. If you do have a festival out there and you want the township at it, ask us to be there, and we can definitely discuss it. I know the Lions this year is going to be having their 50th anniversary this year. That is one of the, in my opinion, one of the greatest groups we have in this community, the Lions. They do so much good. They raise a lot of money, and I'm so glad that they're here. I want to congratulate the Family Medical on their 40th anniversary. They are a nonprofit. They started out at Temperance Road Elementary, which was mentioned tonight, to provide affordable health care to the working people and migrant workers, and they have done this very well. They've come very far. They have a great building now, and they have additional clinics, and I want to thank Meg and the rest of the board for all your hard work. So if anybody has any further comments, Mr. Steiner?
I yielded, but I am going to make one comment tonight. Years ago, not that many years ago, we used to hear people talk about staying home and sitting back in their chair with popping popcorn or beer and pizza and having a sideshow and laugh at this township board. If we don't stop the personal attacks, we're going back there. That's all I have to say.
I agree. I did my homework. I brought a great, in my opinion, a great presentation here tonight, and it was just, in my opinion, looked at as negative, negative, negative. So it's a lot of work putting this stuff together, you know, so we stand adjourned.